This is Show and Tell, a vintage knitting podcast. My name is Billie. I'm coming to you today from Manhattan, but in a few short days, I am boarding a jet plane that will whisk me off to Paris. Yes, there's knitting in this episode, but it's largely going to be about the planning for this Paris trip so I can maximize every moment. Let me start by saying that the reason that I'm going to Paris is there is a World Congress on Art Deco. I participated over a decade ago in the World Congress that took place in New York. It might actually be closer to 20 years, I forget now, but it only happens every 2 years. It's in a different city of the world. I haven't gone to any of the others, but because Paris is so near and dear to my heart, I especially didn't want to miss this one. Paris is loaded with Art Deco because it's the birthplace of Art Deco, and it really launched at the Exposition Internationale des Arts Décoratifs et Industriels Modernes, the international exhibition of decorative arts and modern industrial art, I think is loosely the translation, that happened in 1925 right there in Paris. So 200 of us are convening for a conference. There'll be lectures every day. There will be people dressed in fantastic period clothes. Yours truly has her 1930s sweaters, and I wanted to show you what I'm packing for this trip. I know that I'm going to be outclassed by a lot of these people who have authentic vintage clothing, but I'm going to do my best, and I'd like to know after you see what I'm putting in the suitcase if you approve. Before I go to that though, I wanted to just catch you up a little bit on my knitting. There's no finished objects, work in progress. Yes, this is what's going on the plane with me. You may recall seeing this sleeve. I have it backwards. This is my left sleeve. There won't be fringe, those will all be woven in, but it's a raglan construction, and this is the front that matches up to it. All of these corners are mitered, so everything should line up just perfectly. The construction is very unusual. This is the front center, and it goes sloping downwards towards the underarm, and then this portion wraps around to the back of the sweater. So this is the left front and left back, if you will. But if I'm reading the pattern correctly, from the left center back, this continues across the right back from the center outwards towards the underarm, and then wraps around to the front. So it seems like it's one continuous piece that goes from here all the way around and comes back and meets here. And I think that this black section is part of the button band. I think when I get around to the other front, there'll be buttonholes in that section. So if you've been here before, you will have heard me talk about the variety of different yarns that I used. About 90% of this is from stash. And I say air quotes because I don't do stash, but these were all leftover bits of different projects. So this is one white. This is two other whites that have been combined. This is one gray. This is a different gray from a different project. And the black and the white is some of this and some of this marled together, which, if you remember my sock monkey, that's the yarn from that. So there's some Cascade Heritage, there's some mohair, there's some Rowan Sofiac DK, there's some Millamia. It's a real hodgepodge of stuff. I was starting to run out of the two grays. You can see they're very close in value, not identical. But I went to my friendly local yarn shop, now my favorite one, and in future episodes you'll be hearing more and more about H.M. Nabavian. But I told you about them a little bit before, that they have over 1,000 shades of yarn. This is their Appleton wool, 100% wool. And because there were like 6 or 7 different shades of gray, I was able to get close enough, I felt like, to be in the family. So in here, I started with the grays that I had, but at some point I switched to the new Appleton gray. So this gray and this gray are of the same yarn, which is this one. The sleeve isn't going to be an identical match, but for my purposes, it's going to be close enough, especially because this is such a busy pattern. You're not going to be looking to see, oh, is this gray the same as this gray? So this will be coming on the flight with me because I need something to knit on before I get to my yarn shops in Paris. I will certainly be going back to Les Tricoteurs Volants. Hello, Enrico. Be on the lookout for me. And there's a yarn shop that I recently heard about for the first time called, I think it's Leone. I'm gonna try and make a stop there so that I'll be able to show you a little bit about that shop. Since I mentioned Nabavian, I just wanted to remind you that I had knit my previous finished object, the 1935 holiday jumper, in one of the Pasquale yarns that they carry. So I am bringing to you a couple of color cards for a new yarn that they just brought in. They have many of the Pasquale lines. Here's the card for Pinta hand dyed. There's all the different colorways. They don't have little pieces of yarn attached. I guess because it's hand dyed, it's maybe too different from skein to skein. But there is this swatch card for Pinta, which is the solid color one. So look at all these beautiful colors. Nabavian has all of them right now in stock. And I have a discount code for you, which I will put in the show notes, and I'll put it on the screen, 10% discount for anything that you buy using that code. So Pinta is made of durable organic merino, silk, and rami. And they bill themselves as natural, sustainable luxury yarns. So take a look. They have other wonderful things on their website, Nabavian. So once there, you can buy from those 1,000 colors that I mentioned too. If you're just hearing about my knit along now, you have plenty of time to sign up, but I encourage you to do so now, just so I can get a sense for how many people we're going to have. And you probably want to start planning your yarn purchases and mapping out your time slots for projects that you're going to work on, because as the holidays approach, I know you have a lot of gift knitting that you want to be doing. But starting towards the end of the year, around Christmas or New Year's, it will depend on the group that we assemble. If people have a preference, you know, I would be flexible with that. For this 1930s pattern, I'll put a picture here so you can see it. It looks like it's not too complicated, and I did a little bit of my own math. The tension called for is 7 stitches to the inch, but that gives you a 35-inch bust. And I calculated if I use something that's between 6 and 6.5 stitches to the inch, that I could get to a 41-inch bust. So we will tinker with those kinds of calculations in our first meeting. We'll meet over Zoom. Everybody will compare notes. So even if you've never knit a vintage sweater before from a vintage pattern, this would be a great opportunity. The sweater doesn't look like it's going to be that complicated, but it has that very interesting neckline with a prominent button. So I think it could be a first good stab at doing vintage. And certainly if you're a vintage lover like I am, a welcome addition to your wardrobe, because it's not too crazy. It doesn't have a lot of colors. It's just one solid color. And it doesn't have a lot of different textures. It's not lace complicated like this. it should be pretty smooth going, but interesting because it's not all stockinette. So consider joining us for that. I know a lot of you are heading off to Rhinebeck this weekend, and I wish that I would be there with you. I don't know what my Rhinebeck sweater would be because I really didn't make that a goal this season, knowing that I was going to Paris the same dates as Rhinebeck. But I hope that you all have a wonderful time, and I look forward to hearing all about it. If you're going, I hope that getting there is easier for you than it has been for me the couple of times that I've gone. I'd love to hear about it, so do comment below and tell me like what you found and who you saw and what the highlights were for you and what your traveling experience were. I feel like FOMO, like I'm gonna be missing out. And you're probably saying, well, yeah, we're missing going to Paris, so don't complain. You know, the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm thrilled that I'm going to Paris, don't get me wrong, but I really look forward every year to Rhinebeck too. This academic year, I've been invited to teach at a second private school in New York. Last year I taught in one, now I'm at two different ones, and they're two different age groups of children. The first group are between ages 7 and 10, and the second group, they're middle schoolers, so I think they're between like 12 and 14, 15 or so. Some of them get it right away. Some of them have already advanced to learning how to purl, not just knit, not just do garter stitch, but now I'm starting them on stockinette a little bit. But my biggest thrill from my whole entire teaching experience came since I last met with you. My youngest pupil, I don't know if it's okay to name her. Her name is kind of generic, Jane. Adorable, adorable little girl with freckles and a cute ponytail, very swishy. She was really struggling, and she was really, really determined. Like, for some reason, she's gung-ho to learn how to knit and to be successful at it, but it wasn't coming together for her. The needles that had been provided to us, our metal needles, were gradually switching over to bamboo, but she was really struggling with stitches sliding off. Finally, I had time to sit down just one-on-one with her, and after switching to a wooden needle, which we had like one little pair hanging out, suddenly, like all the gears were aligned, the switch went on. She was knitting like a pro. Almost perfect tension, probably as good as mine. And the flow was going, like she had the motion and it was just going for her. I'm a parent. I remember watching my child achieve certain milestones and being really excited about it. This gave me that same kind of feeling, like the deepest, most wonderful feeling that you've been able to make an impact on someone else's life, and to identify that specific moment when it all came together, before which she couldn't do it, after which she could do it with aplomb. So if you're a teacher, hats off to you. It's a really exciting thing when you get those kinds of moments. Okay, now on to the whole Paris wardrobe situation. I started to lay out the different sweaters and trousers that I want to wear, and I don't think I've put out the skirts yet, but each sweater has like some kind of ensemble. There's jewelry, there's a hat, and I started laying it all out a couple of weeks before the trip. I also kept like a running list of things I didn't want to forget. So I'm going to share all of that with you. I have a very particular style of packing. I like to spread things out and not have much air in between. I don't press it down. I don't like vacuum pack it or anything, but I try and get close to that by smoothing things out instead of having things folded. Like even my husband's undershirts, instead of having them like right out of his closet the way he's got them folded, I unfold everything and I lay them out. Yes, it means when we arrive that many things have to be refolded, but I don't care about that. I'll handle that when I'm unpacking, and I'm probably going to want to steam a lot of things out too. My main thing is getting everything into the suitcase that I want to take with me. And as you'll see, what's going into the suitcase is something other than just clothing. There's a lot of other tidbits. How I prepare for a trip, how I begin to manage what I'm taking, which suitcase I'm going to use, the size and shape of it, whether it's going to be all my stuff in one suitcase or if I'm going to do some of my husband's things. Anyway, I'm still not finished packing. I'll show you where I'm at up to this point. It's really hard to show you everything in one image, but this is an array of what I'll be taking. It's a 5-day conference, and I definitely want to have a different outfit for each daytime, and then I'll have various things for evening as well. So starting in the upper left-hand corner, I have what I've been calling the sock monkey sweater with a red hat, a duet brooch, a red and black glass bead necklace. Then I have the harlequin with a pretty silk scarf, lots of green jewelry, and a fur tippet, and a coordinating mesh handbag, earrings and ring as well. Then over here I have this Art Deco themed jumper with a matching hat and some dress clips. I'll be wearing that with gray pinstripe pants and this silver mesh handbag. The black and pink mesh handbag will be worn with my Schiaparelli bow knot sweater, a couple different necklaces, and then I have pink crystal earrings and a pink beret. Most of these things are going to be worn with black trousers. You see a little bit of them here. And then for one of the evenings, I have this black cashmere sweater with bugle beads and sequins embellishing the shoulders. And I have a black cap with a veil that's also beaded in the same iridescent colorway, and these black earrings too that are iridescent Swarovski crystals. And then I have an array of vintage rhinestone bracelets. So far it's looking pretty compact. I have the stack of sweaters, a couple of pants, the fur, some of the headgear, scarves, the little mesh bags. They're heavy, by the way. And then I threw in another scarf. It's really cute. It has all these vintage hats on it. And then I have a lingerie bag. Pantyhose will go in there. And I have a case that I generally use for jewelry. I'll show you later how I'm gonna load all the jewelry into here. And then this is for my makeup, and the other black zebra case. So the jewelry is over here in waiting. The Altoids has my knitting tools. Of course, there will be knitting on this trip. When I go to pack these into the suitcase, they will not be in a foot-high stack like this. I will show you my packing technique. I consider myself pretty accomplished since I've taken a large number of overseas trips in my lifetime, so stay tuned for that. I've also added this raincoat and matching hat designed by my friend Jerry. And these 1940s style Katharine Hepburn-esque pajamas. In the months leading up to this trip, I did start to put together a list of things that I'm apt to forget. I certainly don't want to leave home without my passport and without euros and eyeglasses and so forth. So as I think of things, I just put them on a packing list so that before I leave home, I'll make sure that all of these things are in my luggage. My friend in Paris asked me to bring her these 4 boxes of tea bags. I thought I was going to collapse the boxes and compress the tea bags, but when I opened one of the boxes, I found the tea bags are already sort of compressed in there, so I am going to have to figure out a way to get these boxes into my suitcase just as they are. I also have this vintage hat that I bought on my last trip to Paris, and I have I think a pretty clever way of packing it so that it doesn't get damaged. It's a felt hat. It's really beautiful fabric. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's almost like velour. This is the box that I have used before to pack hats in. It's just the right diameter for my head. So I want to take this hat, which I bought my last trip to Paris, to wear with the Harlequin sweater. I could put it in like this, but I think you'll see better if I put it in this way, and I can really put it way down in there. This is not protruding above this level. If I get it in there just right, and you should be able to see that when I put this lid on. Well, first of all, from here, I don't know if you can see it. It's not touching that. And then from this angle, you might be able to see that the hat is not touching the lid. It's just kind of perfect, actually. Can you see that? This is watertight. These are the same tubs that I use to store my yarn in. Well, the tub that I used to store my yarn in. And I can fill this with socks and underwear, you know, other things. So this space is not going to be wasted. But for the purposes of showing you, I want to just pop it in here. So I'm going to put it in like that. And then what I want you to see is that all of the space around here is going to be filled in with socks, underwear, the whole inside underneath the hat will have, you know, maybe my cotton balls. There won't be any wasted space. And the dimensions of this will fit in my suitcase, as you will see when I show you how I pack the entire thing. Okay, this is the little box that I'm going to pack my jewelry in. I love this thing because this comes out so you can have 2 layers, and then there are all these individual pockets. So first I'm going to put this in the bottom. I don't want anything that's going to like clank against that and break, so I'll put that in as a little protection. And then I probably can put these bracelets. I might come back and wrap these in tissue, but I want to be able to show you. Little pair of earrings in a pocket. These earrings I'll put in the same pocket. This necklace I'll give its own pocket. I don't want things to be rubbing up against one another and scratching if I can avoid it. So these earrings in their own little pocket. These earrings in their own little pocket. Actually, I might want to clip these together so that the stones don't rub up against one another. So I have it like that. These necklaces I sometimes put in my jewelry box together. So I'll give those their own little pocket. I think I'll put this in with this. And I think these earrings can go in with those. And then these clips. Maybe I'll hook together like I did the black earrings. I'm gonna have to wrap some of these things. And the ring I'm gonna wanna wrap too. So for now, I'm just gonna leave them in here. But this space, again, won't be wasted. Things will go in here to hold everything in place. Then I'll have all of my jewelry in one little convenient bag. This is probably the best luggage in the world. Unfortunately, they don't make it anymore. My husband and I got this decades ago when we first got married. I think it was an engagement gift. We had a matched set. Unfortunately, over the years, the airlines have trashed it. So it zips on both sides. The zippers, the pulls are no longer functional over the years. They busted. But anyway, look at the inside. It's completely flat on the bottom, which most modern suitcases have those retractable handles going through, so you can't really use all the space. But that's what I love about this. It's like total space. My first technique in the whole packing situation is I take a bag from the dry cleaners. You can see where the hanger was. This plastic bag is just the right size for a full-size piece of luggage. So here's my full-size suitcase. Let me turn it around so you get the best vantage point. It fits perfectly on this piece of plastic. What I love about this luggage and why I consider it the best luggage ever made is the whole bottom is packable. There's not those tubes for the retractable handles that modern suitcases have. This has straps. I like to flip them over the edge because then you can belt everything into place when you're done. I'm going to start with this stack of sweaters. See how much space they would take up? Watch. Okay, so my first step is I load in my sweaters or any garment. I try and make it as flat as I can. And I'm going to do that with every sweater that I had previously folded. This one has big shoulder pads. If it's a little too long, I'll try and curl it up against the side and make sure that the next sweater fits in there so that it doesn't crease. Again, trying to get this as smooth and flat as I can. Let's see if I can lay this in. I don't like that these shoulder pads are running interference with those, so I'm going to orient this at a 90-degree angle to the others. And I often do that, do like a crisscross situation, because then it fills in these little corners differently. Okay, smooth, 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 pretty much. Okay, next, I know that I have to do this the long way because it's not to the waist. My Schiaparelli bow knot. These sleeves are really big, so I'm going to try and do something so that they're not stacked on top of each other, because that would be extra layers of thickness that I don't want. For my next sweater, I think this one is short. I can probably go this way. Yeah, more or less. And then the sleeves. I'm pretty sure that my boxes of tea bags are going to go along the edges here because there is wiggle room on the sides. Yeah. Or like a shoe could go in here. Okay, next I'm going to lay in the raincoat. No, I'm changing my mind because I don't want that red bleeding if it gets wet. Next, I'm going to lay in my trousers because I'm short. They also fit this way. Sometimes I nest things inside one another so I don't get a crease. Depends on how thick they are. These might be too long to do that. Should be okay. Actually, no. These are brand new, never worn. I want them to be flatter. Okay, now I'll put the raincoat. The reason I changed it was this raincoat has a red lining. And as we knitters know, red is prone to bleeding, and just in case my luggage gets left out in the rain, because it does rain there, I could put it in plastic. I don't really want to be bothered. Here's the little rain hat. I don't know if I want to put my white pajamas against that, but for now, I will. I can see already I have plenty of room. Oh, let's get the hat box in, because that's a big thing. You know, you want to put the rocks in your jar before you put the sand in. So this definitely meets the height dimension over here. I think this is probably a pretty good location because the bottom of the suitcase comes up to here. Over here, it looked like it was coming up. No, that would be okay too. All right, I'm gonna do that. And then the tea bags seem like they should go in around this. I will be loading more stuff in there, but I just want you to see, like, really, I mean, this is going to go in there. But these berets and things, they can go very flat. This little cap, very flat. Scarves. I'm really not even halfway full. I still have plenty of room for other things, and there will be other things. Here's the jewelry. The jewelry may come with me on the plane. I might not check it. The fur, plenty of room. Little head can go up in there. And the mesh handbags. I didn't pack my makeup yet, but just to show you. And here's my lingerie bag. I still have tons of room, tons. I can put some of my husband's clothes in here even. So I hope that gives you a sense of what one can do. And just one last thing, I'll show you. This would lock everything in place and hold it in transport. So like that tea box won't go jiggling around, it'll kind of stay put. When this is full, it really helps everything stay. So here you have the famous Eiffel Tower, bleu, blanc, rouge, the French flag. I'm not sure what that is, but this is a hot air balloon because they invented it. And then you have your red lips, I guess that is, because the French are famous for red lipstick. And a bottle of red wine. And this is cute. You got blue toes, red heel. So you got the bleu, blanc, rouge story everywhere. If I click my heels 3 times, will I arrive in Paris? Because what does it say on the bottom? Paris is always good. Yay, can't wait. So the next time I see you, maybe I'll try and do something live right from Paris, but just in case I can't get that organized, if I'm short on time, I will certainly recap my trip and a lot of what I'm gonna see and do upon my return. So don't be looking for that before early November because I'm gonna be gone a couple of weeks. Until then, I wish you all a good fortnight and enjoy Rhinebeck if you're going, you lucky ducks. I know you're probably all saying, lucky, you're the one who's lucky you're going to Paris, but you know, I wish I could do both.